Okay, we're here with Paul Monti of Raynham. He is the father of Jared Monti, who was 30 years old when he died serving in Afghanistan in 2006, and he was the recipient of the Medal of Honor. Many of us around Raynham and Taunton know the story of your son, Medal of Honor recipient Jared Monti, but also people around the country now also know about Jared and his story. Can you tell me about what you think of that, how his story has lived on, and also it becoming his memory becoming the subject of a hit country song, "I Drive Your Truck"?
Well, and Jared is very well remembered in the military as a consummate soldier, one who knew his job and did it well. What I take a lot of pride in is the fact that he's now beginning to be known as the great humanitarian person that he was. His giving nature, always, from the time he was a young boy, was one whereby it didn't matter to him what material possessions he had. What mattered to him was being able to share things with other people. And in the end, of course, he shared his own life for someone else. That's the story that I think is more important than anything else, is that he exemplified a way to live your life, in that he was the kind of person that always tried to do the right thing, giving away his own bedroom set to someone that had none, giving away a dining room set to a family that was eating on the floor, actually literally giving away the shirt on his back to a homeless man out in the cold, gifts packages that were sent to him when he was deployed, open, and the contents given out to the local people that needed it, giving away his leave when he was supposed to come back from Afghanistan, gave it to a fellow soldier who hadn't seen his wife in 2 years. This was the kind of person that that we're dealing with here. And in his recently published book, See You on the High Ground, the Jared Monti story, people can learn all about this man that lived such an honorable life.
And so we can see that Jared was more than about his military heroics that he was honored for in the White House. He was all around a kind and caring person, from what we hear about him. And also, as I mentioned before, there was a song that came to be somewhat by coincidence. A songwriter heard a report you talking about Jared and his memory, and how close his memory was to your heart. And you also, in that interview that this songwriter heard, you mentioned a truck that you continue to own, that was owned by Jared, and it's right here actually at your Raynham home where we're talking to you from, in your front driveway here. Can you tell us about this truck and how it was owned by Jared, and how it became the subject of a song that many people know around the country?
Sure. Jared purchased the truck in North Carolina when he was stationed with the 82nd Airborne. Big truck, and I mean, what did he need a truck for? He had no family or anything. But again, it was a matter of his compassionate nature, that he knew that he could use the truck to help other soldiers move things, help them paint their home, or help them pick up supplies at a home supply store. When he was transferred to Fort Drum, upstate New York, of course he drove the truck there, and was very proud of his truck and driving it. After his death, of course, I came into possession of all his things, including the truck, and so I ended up with my son's truck, and was very pleased and honored to be able to drive his truck and have him sitting there beside me as I went about town. the story of the song comes in when after Jared was buried at the cemetery in Bourne. Um, I went down on Veterans Day to put a flag on his grave, and was told that flags were not allowed on the graves. At the time, there were 56,000 veterans in the cemetery, and none of them had a flag on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, which didn't sit well with me. And so I inquired as to why that was, and I was told that, well, they interfered with the maintenance of the cemetery. That kind of infuriated me, so I started a task to try to change the policy, and went through many veterans groups and military people, and eventually into the politicians, and finally after 4.5 years I got permission to place flags on the graves, provided that I purchase the flags, place the flags, remove the flags within 4 days, and store the flags. When word of this got out, I was interviewed by NPR Radio.
Yep.
And at the time, a songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee, was driving home from work, and instead of listening to music, she opted to listen to talk radio, and happened to turn the interview on in the middle of the interview. When the interviewer, Alex Schlock, asked me, how do I keep my son close, and I mentioned that I drive his truck. And as soon as Connie Harrington, the writer, heard that, she grabbed a notepad she had in her car and wrote down those words, and then with tears in her eyes pulled over to the side of the road and began to write a few more things. And eventually, collaborating with Jesse Alexander and Jimmy Yeary, wrote the song, the country hit song, "I Drive Your Truck." It then reached #1 in the country music charts, and the writers decided to try to find the guy that did the interview. And it took them 2 years to find me. Actually found my brother first, and then found me through him after 2 years. And it was about that time that the song "I Drive Your Truck" became the #1 song in the Country Music Awards, Song of the Year for the MCA Awards, and Song of the Year for the Golden Boot Awards.
And so Jared's legacy lives on in many ways. You mentioned earlier there's a baseball tournament going on in his name tonight. What can you say in general about Jared's legacy? How, many youth are learning about him still nowadays, and going forward into the future.
Yeah, I do a lot of speaking. I love to speak at schools. I love to speak to young people, to try to tell them who the real heroes in life should be. Many of them tend to follow athletes as heroes, and then we find out that those athletes aren't the pure, clean-cut Americans that their parents hoped they would be. But here's a young man that led his life in such a great way that I think he is a great inspiration to many young people. And we talk about Jared's 3 basic principles of life that you should always try your hardest at, no matter what it is you do, whether it's baseball or your English homework, that you should never give up on anything. Again, whether it's sports or things in life, don't give up. And thirdly, to always try to do the right thing in life. And it's funny that those are the 3 principles that led to my son's death. That up on the mountain that day in June of 2006, when one of his soldiers was lying severely wounded in the middle of an open field, being shot at by the enemy, it was Jared who decided to run out and try to save him, because it was the right thing to do. And though it took him 3 attempts to try to reach that soldier, it was, again, never give up and always try your hardest to do it. And unfortunately, that cost my son his life.
Well, I thank you for the interview, Paul Monti of Raynham, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mark.